So today we're going to talk quickly about the. Oh, damn it. So today we're going to talk about the hygiene hypothesis, which you may have heard about. If you haven't, you've heard how it's kind of popularized in pop culture. Yeah, that's redundant. Which is that we're too clean for our own good. And we've heard a lot about this. Like, people wash their hands too much. Or if you don't expose yourself to bad stuff, your immune system can't handle it. Which doesn't really make a ton of sense. If you don't expose yourself to bad stuff, then it doesn't need to handle it. But that's beside the point. With hygiene hypothesis, it really started in 1989, the first time it got coined by this British researcher. And what he was actually looking at was how inflammatory disease like hay fever and asthma were lower in the younger siblings when there were larger family sizes. So he said, well, it must be due to some other things that they're exposed to. The important thing to realize is that the research has never really been about what we think of as classical hygiene. So washing our hands a bunch, cleaning up after we eat, vacuuming our house. It's not really about any of that. But what we've found over time is that it really doesn't have to do with cleaning stuff so much as it does our exposure to other bacteria that we have developed with since human beings were human beings. And so our bodies and our systems benefit from being around them. And that's skin bacteria, that's bacteria in the gut, all those different things, even some worms that, importantly, are non-pathogenic. So it's not about being exposed to viruses and bacteria that are bad for us. We aren't at a lack of E. coli or salmonella in our lives. It's that asthma, allergies, hay fever, even autoimmune diseases have gone up because our immune systems aren't being trained. And by being trained, what I mean is in those first 3 to 4 years of life, it's once we're an adult, our immune system has kind of gotten its skills and gotten its feet under itself. This is about when you're a little kid and getting outside and being around other people. Again, not around people that are sick, but just around people. The other bacteria and things that are just floating around in the world that are normal. They help train our immune system and tell it not to go freak out mode when it does get exposed to stuff. So that is the old friends hypothesis. We really need to replace the idea of hygiene with this one. The big researcher that has done the work and has really pushed hard, his name is Graham Rook. And this was back in 2003 that he first started talking about this. So I don't know why it's still around and why I haven't heard that much about him. But it's really, really solid stuff. And it's a better interpretation of this information, which is what we're all about here. On the more interesting side, whiskey I'm drinking tonight. Man, that's so good. Is the 1920 Old Forester Prohibition style bourbon. So you might say, wait, Prohibition style? I thought there wasn't any alcohol during Prohibition. Which is true, unless you're smart enough to somehow get a permit for medicinal purposes, which they did. It's all about who you know, Jack. So they were able to continue Old Forester to brew, or whatever you call making whiskey, and they kept doing it all the way through Prohibition. It's a 115 proof bourbon, so it's a little bit stronger than our last one. It's not quite as sweet as the Middle West spirits that we had last time around, but it still has a pretty nice sweetness. Some of those, as you get into higher proof, get real just hot, have a lot of bite. This doesn't have a ton of bite. It still sticks with you though, so if you're at a fire out in the cold, this is excellent. It still gets some of that warmth, but not an overwhelming amount of it, which is excellent. And the sweetness still lingers. It's a little more subtle, than the Middle West spirits, and I really, really like it. It's even a little bit better when you're drinking it out of a bourbon snifter. My wife loves me, so at Christmas she got me some of these so I could enjoy the bourbon as properly as possible. Yeah, it's very warm. Man, that is some excellent, excellent whiskey. Big fan of that one. That one goes to the top of my list so far. So that's it for today. Next time we'll have a different whiskey and some different science to interpret. Have a good one.